All right, let's get some rain sound rolling. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and do another reading. Get that back over here. Let's turn this off. See if that helps with it. Looks nice. I like the night mode. It's kind of nice, actually. All right. It's like Bible AV43 is what I'm going to work on next. So that's going to be 2 Chronicles 12 to 20. Oh, man. 12 to 20. Second Chronicles 12. Soon after the kingship of Rehoboam was firmly established and he had become strong. Refresh the page. There we go. Hold on one sec. The rain's having an issue. Let's do one of these ones, not live. There we go. That looks nice. That could actually be fun. Little project. Maybe do like get little pieces of wood, make scale model houses, and then rainproof them, and then put little misters above, and just kind of have like a little. Oh, that could be cool. It'd be like a sort of like a snow globe or something. And when you plug it in, it turns on the little sprayer or something, and then you just keep a reservoir of water inside of it. That could be interesting. Okay, that'll be fun. It's a good thing to think about in the future. All right. Soon after the kingship of Rehoboam was firmly established and he had become strong, he abandoned the law of Jehovah, and also all Israel with him. In the 5th year of King Rehoboam, King Shishak of Egypt came up against Jerusalem, for they had behaved unfaithfully toward Jehovah. He had 1,200 chariots, 60,000 horsemen, and countless troops who came with him from Egypt, Libyans, Sukkiim, and Ethiopians. He captured the fortified city of Judah and finally reached Jerusalem. Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam and the princes of Judah who had gathered at Jerusalem because Shishak, and he said to them, "This is what Jehovah says. You have abandoned me, so I have also abandoned you to the hand of Shishak." At that the princes of Israel with the king humbled themselves and said, "Jehovah is righteous." When Jehovah saw that they had humbled themselves, the word of Jehovah came to Shemaiah, saying, "They have humbled themselves, I will not destroy them, and in a little while I will rescue them. I will not pour out my wrath on Jerusalem through Shishak, but they will become his servants, so that they will know the difference between serving me and serving the kings of other lands." So King Shishak of Egypt came against Jerusalem, and he took treasures of the house of Jehovah and the treasures of the king's house. He took everything, including the gold shields that Solomon had made. So King Rehoboam made copper shields to replace them, and he entrusted them to the chiefs of the guards, who guarded the entrance of the king's house. Whenever the king came to the house of Jehovah, the guards would come in and carry them, and they would return them to the guard chamber, because the king humbled himself. Jehovah's anger turned away from him, and he did not destroy them completely. Moreover, there were some good things found in Judah. King Rehoboam strengthened his position in Jerusalem and continued to reign. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 17 years in Jerusalem, the city that Jehovah had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel as the place to put his name. The name of the king's mother was Naamah, the Ammonitess. But he did what was bad, for he had not resolved in his heart to search for Jehovah. As for Rehoboam's history from beginning to end, is it not written among the word of Shemaiah the prophet and of Iddo the visionary in the genealogical record? And there was constant wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Then Rehoboam, was laid to rest with his forefathers and was buried in the city of David, and his son Abijah became king in his place. 2 Chronicles 13. In the 18th year of King Jeroboam, Abijah became king over Judah. He reigned for 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Micaiah, and the daughter of Uriel of Gibeah. And there was war between Abijah and Jeroboam. So Abijah went to war with an army of 400,000 mighty trained warriors, and Jeroboam drew up in battle formation against him with 800,000 trained men, mighty warriors. Abijah now stood on Mount Zemaraim, which is in the mountainous region of Ephraim, and said, "Hear me, O Jeroboam, and all Israel. Do you not know that Jehovah the God of Israel gave to David a kingdom over Israel forever, to him and to his sons by a covenant of salt? But Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, the servant of David's son Solomon, rose up and rebelled against his Lord. And idle, worthless men kept gathering to him, and they proved superior to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, when Rehoboam was young and faint-hearted, and he could not hold his own against them. And now you think you can hold your own against the kingdom of Jehovah in the hand of the sons of David, because you are a large crowd, and you have the golden calves that Jeroboam made as gods for you. Have you not driven out Jehovah's priests, the descendants of Aaron and the Levites, and have you not appointed your own priests, just like the people of the other lands? Anyone who came along with a young bull and 7 rams could become a priest of what are not gods. As for us, Jehovah is our God, and we have not abandoned him. Our priests, the descendants of Aaron, are ministering to Jehovah, and the Levites assist in the work. They are making burnt offering smoke to Jehovah each morning and each evening, along with perfumed incense. And the layer bread is on the table of pure gold, and they light up the golden lampstand and its lamps each evening, because we are caring for our responsibility to Jehovah, our God. But you have abandoned him. Now look, the true God is with us, leading us with his priests and the signal trumpets for sounding the battle alarm against you. O men of Israel, do not fight against Jehovah, the God of your forefathers, for you will not be successful. But Jeroboam dispatched an ambush to come from behind them, so that they were in front of Judah, and the ambush was behind them. When the men of Judah turned around, they saw that they had to fight the battle both in front and from behind. So they began to cry to Jehovah, while the priests were loudly sounding the trumpets. The men of Judah broke out in a war cry, and when the men of Judah shouted the war cry, the true God defeated Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. The Israelites fled before Judah, and God gave them into their hands. Abijah and his people inflicted a great slaughter on them, and the slain of Israel kept falling, 500,000 trained men. Thus the men of Israel were humbled at that time, but the men of Judah proved superior because they relied on Jehovah, the God of their forefathers. Abijah kept chasing Jeroboam and captured cities from him, Bethel and its dependent towns, Jeshanah and its dependent towns, and Ephraim and its dependent towns. And Jeroboam never regained his power during the time of Abijah. Then Jehovah struck him down and he died. But Abijah grew in number. In time he took 14 wives, and he became father to 22 sons and 16 daughters. And the rest of Abijah's history, his deeds and his words, is recorded in the writings of the prophet Iddo. 2 Chronicles 24. Then Abijah was laid to rest with his forefathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And his son Asa became king in his place. In his days the land had rest for 10 years. Asa did what was good and what was right in the eyes of Jehovah his God. He removed the foreign altars and the high places, smashed the sacred pillars, and cut down the sacred poles. Further, he told Judah to search for Jehovah, the God of their forefathers, and to observe the law and the commandments. So he removed from all the cities of Judah the high places of the incense stands, and under him the kingdom continued without disturbance. He built fortified cities in Judah, since the land had no disturbance and there was no war against him during these years. For Jehovah gave him rest. He said to Judah, "Let us build these cities and surround them with walls and towers, gates and bars. For the land is still at our disposal, because we have searched for Jehovah our God. We have searched, and he has given us rests all around." So their building was successful. Asa had an army of 300,000 men from Judah, equipped with large shields and lances, and out of Benjamin were 280,000 mighty warriors who carried bucklers and were armed with bows. Later Zerah, the Ethiopian, came against them with an army of 100,000 men and 300 chariots. When he reached Mareshah, Asa went out against him, and they drew up in battle formation in the valley of Zephathah at Mareshah. Asa then called to Jehovah his God and said, "O Jehovah, it does not matter to you whether those who you help are many or have no power. Help us, O Jehovah, our God, for we are relying on you, and in your name we have come against this crowd. O Jehovah, you are our God. Do not let mortal man prevail against you." So Jehovah defeated the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. Asa and the people with him pursued them as far as Gerar, and the Ethiopians continued falling until not one of them was alive, for they were crushed by Jehovah and his army. Afterward they carried off a very great deal of spoil. Further, they struck all the cities around Gerar, for the dread of Jehovah had come upon them, and they plundered all the cities, for there was much to plunder in them. They also attacked the tents of those with livestock, and they captured a great number of flocks and camels, after which they returned to Jerusalem. Okay. 2 Chronicles 15. Now the Spirit of God came upon Azariah, the son of Oded. So he went out to meet Asa and said to him, "Hear me, O Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. Jehovah is with you as long as you remain with him, and if you search for him, he will let himself be found by you. But if you abandon him, he will abandon you." For a long time Israel had been without the true God, without a priest teaching, and without law. When in their distress they returned to Jehovah, the God of Israel, and searched for him, he let himself be found by them. In those times no one could travel safely, for there was much unrest among all the inhabitants of the lands. Nation was being crushed by nation, and one city by another city, because God kept them in disorder with every sort of distress. But you, be strong, and do not become discouraged, for your activity will be rewarded. As soon as Asa heard these words and the prophecy of Oded the prophet, he took courage and removed the disgusting idols from all the land of Judah and Benjamin, and from the cities that he had captured from the mountainous region of Ephraim, and he restored Jehovah's altar that was before the porch of Jehovah. And he gathered together all Judah and Benjamin and the foreign residents with them from Ephraim and Manasseh and Simeon, for they had deserted to him from Israel in great number when they saw that Jehovah his God was with him. So they were gathered together at Jerusalem in the 3rd month of the 15th year of Asa's reign. On that day they sacrificed to Jehovah from the spoil they had brought 700 cattle and 7,000 sheep. Furthermore, they entered into a covenant to search for Jehovah, the God of their forefathers, with all their heart and with all their soul. Whoever would not search for Jehovah, the God of Israel, was to be put to death, whether small or great, man or woman. So they took an oath to Jehovah with a loud voice, with joyful shouting, and with trumpets and horns, and all Judah rejoiced over the oath. For they had taken the oath with all their heart, and they eagerly sought him, and he let himself be found by them. And Jehovah continued to give them rest on every side. Asa, the king, even removed Maacah, his grandmother, from her position as queen mother, because she had made an obscene idol for the worship of the sacred pole. Asa cut down her obscene idol and pulverized it and burned it in the Kidron Valley. But the high places were not removed from Israel. Nevertheless, Asa's heart was complete all his life, and he brought the things that he and his father had made holy into the house of the true God, silver, gold, and various utensils. There was no war until the 35th year of Asa's reign. 2 Chronicles 16. In the 36th year of the reign of Asa, King Baasha of Israel came up against Judah and began to build up Ramah to prevent anyone from going out or coming in to King Asa of Judah. At that, Asa brought out silver and gold from the treasuries of Jehovah's house and the king's house, and sent them to King Benhadad of Syria, who was dwelling in Damascus, saying, "There is a treaty between me and you, and between my father and your father. I am sending you silver and gold. Come, break your treaty with King Baasha of Israel, so that he will withdraw from me." Benhadad listened to King Asa and sent the chiefs of his armies against the chiefs of Israel, and they struck down Ijon, Dan, Abel-Maim, and all the storage places of the cities of Naphtali. When Baasha heard of it, he immediately quit building Ramah and abandoned his work on it. King Asa then took all Judah, and they carried off the stones and timbers of Ramah that Baasha had been building with, and with them he built up Geba and Mizpah. At that time, Hanani the seer came to King Asa of Judah, and said to him, "Because you relied on the king of Syria and did not rely on Jehovah your God, the army of the king of Syria has escaped out of your hand. We were not the Ethiopians and the Libyans, a very great army with many chariots and horsemen? But because you relied on Jehovah, he gave them into your hand. For the eyes of Jehovah are roving about through all the earth, to show his strength in behalf of those whose heart is complete toward him. You have acted foolishly in this matter. From now on there will be wars against you." However, Asa became offended at the seer and put him in prison, because he was enraged at him over this. And Asa began to mistreat others among the people at the same time. Now the history of Asa from beginning to end is written in the book of the kings of Judah and of Israel. In the 39th year of his reign, Asa developed an ailment in his feet until he became very sick. And even in his sickness, he turned to Jehovah, but to the healers, turned not to Jehovah, but to the healers. Then Asa was laid to rest with his forefathers. He died in the 41st year of his reign. So they buried him in the grand burial place that he had excavated for himself in the city of David. And they laid him on a bier that had been filled with balsam oil and different sorts of ingredients mixed into a specialty made ointment. Further, they made an extraordinarily great funeral burning for him. 2 Chronicles 17. And his son Jehoshaphat became king in his place, and he strengthened his position over Israel. He stationed military forces in all the fortified cities of Judah, and put garrisons in the land of Judah and in the cities of Ephraim that Asa his father had captured. Jehovah continued with Jehoshaphat, because he walked in the former ways of his forefather David, and did not search for the Baals. For he searched for the God of his father, and followed his commandment, and not the practices of Israel. Jehovah kept the kingdom firmly established in his hand, and all Judah continued to give gifts to Jehoshaphat, and he had riches and glory in abundance. His heart became bold in the ways of Jehovah, and he even removed the high places and the sacred poles from Judah. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sent for his princes Benhail, Obadiah, Zechariah, Nethanel, and Micaiah to teach in the cities of Judah. There were Levites with them: Shemaiah, Nethaniah, Zebediah, Asahel, Shemiramoth, Jehonathan, Adonijah, Tobijah, Tobadonijah, and along with them Elishama and Jehoram, the priests. They began teaching in Judah, taking with them the books of Jehovah's law, and they went around through all the cities of Judah, teaching among the people. And the dread of Jehovah came upon all the kingdoms of the lands surrounding Judah, and they did not fight against Jehoshaphat. And the Philistines brought to Jehoshaphat gifts and money as tribute. The Arabs brought him 7,700 rams and 7,700 male goats from their flocks. Jehoshaphat grew greater and greater, and he continued building fortified places and storage cities in Judah. He carried out extensive projects in the cities of Judah, and he had soldiers, mighty warriors in Jerusalem. These were grouped by their paternal houses. Of Judah, the chiefs of thousands, Adnah, the chief, and with him were 300,000 mighty warriors. And under his command was Jehohanan, the chief, and with him were 280,000. And also under his service or command was Amasiah, the son of Zichri, who volunteered for Jehovah's service, and with him were 200,000 mighty soldiers. And out of Benjamin was Eliada, a mighty warrior, and with him were 200,000 men equipped with the bow and the shield. And under his command was Jehozabad, and with him were 180,000 men equipped for the army. These were ministering to the king, in addition to those whom the king put in the fortified cities throughout all Judah. 2 Chronicles 18. Jehoshaphat had riches and glory in abundance, but he made a marriage alliance with Ahab, So years later he went down to Ahab at Samaria, and Ahab sacrificed sheep and cattle in abundance for him and for the people with him. And he urged him to go up against Ramoth-Gilead. Then King Ahab of Israel said to King Jehoshaphat of Judah, "Will you go with me to Ramoth-Gilead?" He replied to him, "I am the same as you, and my people are the same as your people, and will support you in the war." But Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, "First inquire, please, of the word of Jehovah." So the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, 400 men, and said to them, "Should we go to war against Ramoth-Gilead, or should I refrain?" They said, "Go up, and the true God will give it into the king's hands." Jehoshaphat then said, "Is there not a prophet of Jehovah? Let us also inquire through him." At that the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "There is still one more man through whom we can inquire of Jehovah, but I hate him, for he never prophesies good things concerning me, but always bad. He is Micaiah, the son of Imlah." However, Jehoshaphat said, "The king should not say such a thing." So the king of Israel called a court official and said, "Bring Micaiah, the son of Imlah, quickly." Now the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, were each sitting on his throne, dressed in royal attire. They were sitting at the threshing floor at the entrance of the gate of Samaria, and all the prophets were prophesying before them. Then Zedekiah, the son of Chenaniah, made for himself iron horns and said, "This is what Jehovah says. With these you will gore the Syrians until you exterminate them." All the other prophets were prophesying the same way, saying, "Go up to Ramoth-Gilead, and you will be successful. Jehovah will give it into the king's hand." So the messenger who went to call Micaiah said to him, "Look, the words of the prophets are unanimously favorable to the king. Let your word please become like theirs, and speak favorably." But Micaiah said, "As surely as Jehovah is living, whatever my God says is what I will speak." Then he came into the king, and the king asked him, "Micaiah, should we go to war against Ramoth-Gilead, or should I refrain?" At once he replied, "Go up, and you will be successful. They will be given into your hand." At that the king said to him, "How many times must I put you under the oath not to speak to me anything but the truth and the name of Jehovah?" So he said, "I see all the Israelites scattered on the mountains like sheep that have no shepherd." Jehovah said, "These have no master. Let each one go back to his house in peace." Then the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "Did I not tell you he will not prophesy good things concerning me, only bad?" Micaiah then said, "Therefore, hear the words of Jehovah. I saw Jehovah sitting on his throne, and all the army of the heavens standing at his right and at his left." Jehovah then said, "Who will fool King Ahab of Israel, so that he will go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead?" And one was saying one thing, while another said something else. Then a spirit came forward and stood before Jehovah and said, "I will fool him." Jehovah asked him, "How will you do it?" He replied, "I will go out and become a deceptive spirit in the mouth of all his prophets." So he said, "You will fool him. And what is more, you will be successful. Go out and do that." And now Jehovah has put a deceptive spirit in the mouth of these prophets of yours, but Jehovah has declared calamity for you. Okay. Zedekiah, the son of Chenaniah, now approached and struck Micaiah on the cheek and said, "Which way did the Spirit of Jehovah pass for me to speak with you?" Micaiah replied, "Look, you will see which way on the day when you will enter the innermost room to hide." Then the king of Israel said, "Take Micaiah and turn him over to Amon, the chief of the city, and to Joash, the king's son. Tell them, this is what the king says. Put this fellow in the prison and feed him with the reduced allowance of bread and water until I return in peace." But Micaiah said, "If you do not return in peace, Jehovah has not spoken with me." Then he added, "Take note, all you peoples." So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth-Gilead. The king of Israel now said to Jehoshaphat, "I will disguise myself and will go into the battle, and you should put on your royal attire." So the king of Israel disguised himself, and they entered the battle. Now the king of Syria had ordered his chariot commanders, "Do not fight anyone, small or great, except with the king of Israel." And as soon as the chariot commanders saw Jehoshaphat, they said to themselves, "It is the king of Israel." So they turned to fight against him, and Jehoshaphat began to cry for help. And Jehovah helped him, and God at once diverted them from him. When the chariot commanders saw that it was not the king of Israel, they immediately turned back from following him. But one man shot his bow at random and he struck the king of Israel between the joints of his coat of mail. So the king said to his charioteer, "Turn around and take me out of the battle, for I have been badly wounded." The fighting raged throughout that day, and the king of Israel had to be propped up in the chariot, facing the Syrians until the evening, and he died at sunset. 2 Chronicles 19. Then King Jehoshaphat of Judah returned safely to his own house in Jerusalem. Jehu, the son of Hanani, the visionary, went out to meet him and said to King Jehoshaphat, "Is it the wicked you should be helping, and is it those who hate Jehovah you should never love? Because of this indignation of Jehovah is against you. Nevertheless, there are good things that have been found in you, because you cleared out the sacred poles from the land that you have prepared in your heart to search for the true God." Jehoshaphat continued living in Jerusalem and went out among the people from Beersheba to the mountainous region of Ephraim to bring them back to Jehovah, the God of their forefathers. He also appointed judges throughout the land and all the fortified cities of Judah, city by city. And he said to the judges, "Pay attention to what you are doing, for you do not judge for man, but for Jehovah, and he is with you when you pass judgment. Now let the fear of Jehovah be upon you. Be careful about what you do, for with Jehovah our God there is no injustice, no partiality, no bribe taking." In Jerusalem also, Jehoshaphat appointed some of the Levites and the priests and some of the heads of the paternal houses of Israel to serve as judges for Jehovah and to settle legal cases for the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And he commanded them, "This is what you should do in the fear of Jehovah with faithfulness and a complete heart. Whenever your brothers living in their cities bring a legal case that involves the shedding of blood, or a question about a law, a commandment, regulations, or judgments, you should warn them so that they may not become guilty before Jehovah. Otherwise, his indignation will come against you and your brothers. This is what you should do, so that you may not incur guilt. Here is Amariah, the chief priest, who is over you for every matter of Jehovah. Zebediah, the son of Ishmael, is the leader of the house of Judah for every matter pertaining to the king. And the Levites will serve as officers for you. Be strong and act, and let Jehovah be with those who do what is good." 2 Chronicles 20. Afterward, the Moabites and the Ammonites, together with some of the Ammonim, came to wage war against Jehoshaphat. So Jehoshaphat was told, "A large crowd has come against you from the region of the sea, from Edom, and there they are in Hazan Tamar, that is, En Gedi." At that Jehoshaphat became afraid, and he resolved to search for Jehovah. So he proclaimed a fast for all Judah. The people of Judah then gathered together to inquire of Jehovah. They came from all the cities of Judah to consult Jehovah. Then Jehoshaphat stood up in the congregation of Judah and Jerusalem in the house of Jehovah before the new courtyard, and he said, "O Jehovah, the God of our forefathers, are you not God in the heavens? Do you not have dominion over all the kingdoms of the nations? In your hands are power and might, and no one can stand against you. O our God, did you not drive away the inhabitants of this land from before your people Israel, and then give it as a lasting possession to the offspring of your friend Abraham? And they settled in it, and they built for you there a sanctuary for your name, saying, if disaster should come on us, whether by sword, adverse judgment, pestilence, or famine, let us stand before this house and before you, for the name is in this house, and call to you for help out of our distress, and may you hear and save us. Now here are the men of Ammon, Moab, and the mountainous region of Seir, whom you did not allow Israel to invade when they came out of the land of Egypt. They turned away from them and did not annihilate them. Now they are repaying us by coming in to drive us out from your possession that you gave us as an inheritance. O our God, will you not execute judgment on them? For we are powerless before this large crowd that is coming against us, and we do not know what we should do, but our eyes are toward you." Meanwhile, all those of Judah were standing before Jehovah, along with their little ones, their wives, and their children. Then in the middle of the congregation, the Spirit of Jehovah came upon Jahaziel, son of Zechariah, son of Benaiah, son of Jael, son of Mattaniah, the Levites of the sons of Asaph. He said, "Pay attention, all Judah and you inhabitants of Jerusalem and King Jehoshaphat. Here is what Jehovah says to you. Do not be afraid or be terrified of this large crowd, for the battle is not yours but God's. Tomorrow go down against them. They will be coming up by the pass of Ziz, and you will find them at the end of the valley before the wilderness of Jeruel. You will not need to fight this battle. Take your position, stand still, and see the salvation of Jehovah in your behalf. O Judah and Jerusalem, do not be afraid or be terrified. Tomorrow go out against them, and Jehovah will be with you. At once Jehoshaphat bowed low with his face to the ground, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell down before Jehovah to worship Jehovah. Then the Levites, who were descendants of the Kohathites, and the Kohathites rose up to praise Jehovah, the God of Israel, with a very loud voice. They rose up early the next morning and went out to the wilderness of Tekoa. And they went out. As they went out, Jehoshaphat stood up and said, "Listen to me, O Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem. Put faith in Jehovah your God, so that you may be able to stand firm. Put faith in his prophets, and you will be successful." After he consulted with the people, he appointed men to sing to Jehovah and to offer praise in his holy adornment as they went out ahead of the armed men, saying, "Give thanks to Jehovah, for his loyal love endures forever." When they began joyfully singing praises, Jehovah set an ambush against the men of Ammon, Moab, and the mountainous region of Seir, who were invading Judah, and they struck each other down. And the Ammonites and the Moabites turned against the inhabitants of the mountainous region of Seir to destroy and annihilate them. And when they finished with the inhabitants of Seir, they helped to destroy one another. But when Judah came to the watchtower of the wilderness and looked toward the crowd, there they saw their carcasses fallen to the ground. There were no survivors. Jehoshaphat and his people came to carry off the spoil from them, and they found among them an abundance of goods, clothing, and desirable articles, which they stripped off for themselves until they could carry no more. It took 3 days to carry off the spoil, for it was abundant. On the 4th day they congregated together at the valley of Barakah, where they praised Jehovah. That is why they named the place Valley of Barakah until today. Then all the men of Judah and Jerusalem, with Jehoshaphat at their head, returned to Jerusalem with rejoicing, for Jehovah had made them rejoice over their enemies. So they came into Jerusalem with stringed instruments, harps, and trumpets, and went to the house of Jehovah. And the dread of God came upon all the kingdoms of the land when they heard that Jehovah had fought against the enemies of Israel. Thus the kingdom of Jehoshaphat had no disturbance, and his God continued to give him rest on every side. And Jehoshaphat continued reigning over Judah. He was 35 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 25 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shilhi. He kept walking in the way of his father Asa. He did not deviate from it, and he did what was right in Jehovah's eyes. However, the high places were not removed, and the people had not yet prepared their heart for the God of their forefathers. As for the rest of the history of Jehoshaphat, from beginning to end, there it is written among the words of Jehu, the sons of Hanani, which were included in the books of the kings of Israel. After this, King Jehoshaphat of Judah made an alliance with King Ahaziah of Israel, who acted wickedly. So he made him his partner in making ships to go to Tarshish, and they built the ships in Eziongeber. However, Eliezer, the son of Dodavahu, and of Marisha, spoke prophetically against Jehoshaphat, saying, "Because you have made an alliance with Ahaziah, Jehovah will destroy your works." For the ships were wrecked, and they were unable to go to Tarshish. And that is the end of AD 43.